back to Dreams, Passion and Your Hong Kong Story, where every time we bring before you inspiring stories of amazing people from this magnificent land, Hong Kong. Today we have with us a very dynamic social innovator. Let's meet Manoj Thar from Integrated Brilliant Education Limited, or IBL. Hello Manoj and welcome to our show.
Thank you, Thank you so much.
So Manoj started his early career with banking industry in Hong Kong and spent over a decade with that career. And then he and his wife found a lot of passion and interest in the cause for the educationally marginalized kids, mostly non-Chinese speaking, from the ethnic minority communities. These kids were lacking critical educational need, which actually made them struggle in the local school system and thereby also affected their future empowerment. This cause was so close to Manoj and his wife's heart that they founded IBEL in 2015. Since then, IBEL has been running 2 robust centers in Hong Kong, and recently, for all their amazing work, they were awarded the HR Appreciation Award by South China Morning Post. In his spare time, Manoj also serves as the manager and tournament director for Hong Kong girls rugby. Let's talk to Manoj and find out how his Hong Kong journey has been. So Manoj, tell us now a little bit about your early days growing up and what brought you to Hong Kong.
We've grown up in New Delhi always, so you've gone in through the system, and basically I started my career with the banking industry, and that was till almost 1999, and then I got the opportunity to come into Hong Kong. So family background wise, I've always had great supportive parents. My father's a very eminent journalist, my mom was a school teacher, and my sister's a fantastic architect. So that was our family upbringing, and that is the kind of culture we hail from. And then in 1999 is when we came into Hong Kong. So that was one banking job, and then you kind of Hong Kong kind of grows on you. So you came in saying that, oh, all right, you're going to be here for 2 years, and then that kind of multiplies, and before you know, you had done 10, 12 years. So that was the banking side of the evolution and transition from India into Hong Kong. That happened, and then one reached a stage and age in life where you were looking to do something more than what you had already been doing, and that's where the concept of this is something I guess a lot of us grow up with, and our parents instill this in us, is that the concept of in Indians to a large extent is that of the Janmbhoomi and the Karmabhoomi. So while of course you owe absolute allegiance and loyalty to the place you were born in, but then also you have a lot of responsibility to give back to the place which allows you to prosper. And for that, one is extremely thankful and grateful for the opportunities that Hong Kong gave us. And that is what encouraged me as an individual to look at something as to how do I give back to an already very well established, very well run, very wealthy state like Hong Kong.
Right.
And so you looked at causes and which struck a chord with you, and that was the starting point.
What a benevolent thought. Now tell us a little bit about IBEL and what inspired you to take up the cause for the educationally marginalized kids of ethnic minorities.
I went through many days and weeks and months, almost 10, 12 years, where I saw certain patterns in the society. So the construction sites would typically have a lot of non-Chinese people, ethnic minorities, and one wouldn't see very many of the ethnic minorities getting jobs in even retail stores, for that matter. And even if they were, they would be doing maybe selling some sandwiches and very basic. So there seemed to be this massive socioeconomic disparity, and I couldn't. After a while, it started to hit me over and over again as to why does this happen. This is the same Hong Kong where on one side, a lot of the ethnic minorities, the Indians and everybody else, do extremely well. And then on the other side, there's those who are never able to break out through that socioeconomic cycle of poverty. And so one started digging deeper into it, and then one figured out that the basic root cause seemed to be their inability or their lack of access to the equal opportunity to get education in the language, the local language.
I see.
And so that then kind of made one realize that this is not fair on the children. You know, these are bona fide Hong Kong children. And all they need is equal opportunities. They need to be included in the education system. And they can be such massive assets to Hong Kong and help it grow even better and even stronger in the coming years. And that was then when I felt that, hang on, so, you know, in a lot of respects, I'm just lucky that I came in at an age and stage where my skill mattered more than my language abilities.
Right.
But for a person who's born, bred, raised here, if you don't have the language, then getting into the universities or getting jobs or, you know, getting a job beyond a blue-collar job is extremely difficult. And of course, you know, the basic thing is that in any society on this planet, language is the key connector.
Right.
That is the thread which weaves you into the fabric or does not allow you to ever integrate into the society. So those couple of points just kind of appealed very well to me. And I said, okay, all right, this is what it is. And I think this is what I would want to do as my little bit in terms of giving back to Hong Kong.
So when you say ethnic minority community,
Sure.
which are the nationalities here that mostly fall in that underprivileged categories?
See, holistically speaking, if you go by whatever statistics and data that's there, so it's basically, so they're also called ethnic minorities and they're also called non-Chinese speaking. So that's a softer term that's used.
Okay.
And in that, a large number of them belong to the South Asian countries.
I see.
So it can be, you know, the Indians, the Pakistanis, the Nepalese, the Sri Lankans, the Filipinos, the Indonesians, the Thais. So it's basically those who should not have this problem of being non-Chinese speaking because they are born, bred, raised in an environment.
Yes.
But unfortunately, that is not the way the reality is.
I see.
And so that's the demographic.
Okay. And how does that impact them into getting into the normal school system?
Sure.
Can you explain a little bit on that?
See, I think it's something which is unfortunately or fortunately very well documented. So there are cases where a parent has got a 4.5, 5-year-old child and they're wanting to take the kid into a regular mainstream school. And obviously these can't be international schools because they have their own bandwidth, socioeconomic bandwidth. So when they go in, when they try to get admission, first all the literature and everything is in Chinese.
I see.
So the parents don't necessarily have the skill levels or the acumen level.
And this is Cantonese or Mandarin?
Cantonese.
Okay.
So that is one aspect. And then also there are cases, and which is what one has seen through our experience over the last 6 years, that even when the parents are trying to get their kid into such a kindergarten, they will be politely and sometimes not so politely be turned away, saying that, look, you know, you're not able to provide the cultural immersion environment for the child to pick up the language, which is, well, it's not the best of answers for an educator to give to a parent, but it happens. So that and there itself is where the educational marginalization of a child happens. Opening the door would allow the child the equal opportunity and allow the child to be included into the mainstream society. After that, once the child is in the educational system or in the educational mainstream kindergarten or a primary school, then it's going to be an easy
fair
ride.
Game for everyone.
However, if you're not allowing the child to get in at that stage and the child is being pushed into going to another school where English is being used as a curriculum or the Chinese language is not as proficient as a Chinese child is learning, then of course, you know, you've already tied the kids 2 hands behind, and then it's a bit unrealistic to expect the child to be competitive.
Yeah. So the child, let's say, is not able to get into the local school system at kindergarten and is pushed to join another school which has English as the medium. But does that disadvantage a child later on for high school?
Yes, at every stage, because from kindergarten, when a child is trying to get into a primary school, and of course, there is an entrance test and everything else, so already your Chinese language skills are weaker than that of a Chinese child. And then you can never compete, right?
Can you now tell our audience about IBL's different initiatives, or what are the different innovations you have put in place in your institute here, which enables these marginalized children to actually come up and compete?
So our benchmarks are different for the different age groups, and it's phenomenal. It's something we've learned. It's not that we knew everything from the first day. We knew there was a challenge, and we knew it had to be dealt with. So when you're looking at the kindergarten kids, the biggest thing is when the kindergarten kids come into us for after school help, when they walk in here, we treat them as our teachers are all Hong Kong Chinese native speakers. And they treat them as Chinese kids. So this place is not a safe place or a safe haven or a safe refuge where the kids will come and start talking in English. The concept is that from the minute the kindergarten kid walks in, he's constantly surrounded by our tutors and teachers who are constantly talking in Cantonese. So you want cultural immersion, this is how it happens. So that one, the second bit, of course, we keep working on their Chinese writing, speaking, hearing, everything. So stuff which they're missing out at their mainstream kindergarten school is what gets strengthened here.
I see.
So at this level, our benchmark is that we have to somehow try and get these kids to a level of strength where they're able to get into good Chinese primary schools.
Okay.
From primary, then the next best challenge is that you stay at level with the school and you are able to finish your homework and everything else. And the next big jump comes in from primary to secondary. That is another big challenge because there from primary 5 to primary 6, kids have to be getting really good exams and results and everything to be able to get into good band 1 schools.
Okay, band 1 is the high school?
Yeah, the band 1s are the secondary schools and the very, very good and, you know, where infrastructure is great, teacher input is great and everything else. So then our equation for our primary 5, primary 6 children changes because there we may not have got them at a kindergarten stage. So there our evolution, all right. So hang in there. You may have your maths in Chinese, you may have your Chinese in Chinese. All you have to do is just roll up your sleeves, keep working hard, pegging away, get good marks, try and get yourself into a good band 1 secondary school.
Okay.
So that is where that is. Once the kids are in the band 1 secondary schools, then the challenge shifts again because then there is a massive challenge and data statistics and data often say it, that a lot of them are non-attendees.
Yeah.
And that one can empathize, and I, from my personal experience, can tell you because I see these kids' personalities and characters change because as long as they are primary, 11, 12 years old, it's easier to sell the concept to them that you need to study and then you have to, you know, become good and better and everything else. But once they become teenagers, they naturally develop a personality. And a lot of them also, because of the way the education system has treated them or some educators have treated them, they develop a certain sense of cynicism or pessimism towards the system that, look, I'm going to school, I don't understand 90% of the what the teacher is saying. So what's the point of me going into school? And that is why they drop off from the schooling radar.
I see.
So while their population and their numbers are exploding as a demographic in Hong Kong, but there's not many of them who are reaching the universities. So for us, in the secondary schooling system, the kindergarten is a different stage. The secondary schooling system, our objective changes to just hang in there. You have to just continue, keep clearing your exams, keep finishing everything, finish your school, and make a pitch for the university.
I see.
So that's how our objectives with every age group, our academic objectives with every age group change. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is we have something called a social impact program. So on the one side, it engages lots of sections of Hong Kong community, which is our, our corporate donors and education institutions, etc. But for our children, what it does is it gives them the cultural immersion and educational opportunities, all on the basis of out-of-classroom experiences.
Okay.
So we will take them to different places in Hong Kong like Science Museum, Space Museum, Museum of Coastal Defense, these kind of things, which turn out to be good educational experiences for them. But also the fact that for a child, you have to incentivize things.
Yes.
And a child must feel that, oh, I didn't know Hong Kong had so many places. I love this place and I want to learn the language. So there are ways of how you present the proposition to the child, and then the child's objectives and goals and ambitions in life become clearer. That, no, I consider this my home. This is a place where I want to be. And so those happen. And besides that, then we also have something where we spend a lot of time on their physical and mental well-being. And that happens for us is via a sports engagement.
I see.
So we have our annual sports day, which is, we've done 5 now. And we've got a lot of engagement with rugby, the Hong Kong Rugby Union. And they hold a lot of training programs for our kids.
Okay, so what kind of staff are you hiring?
So our organizational structure is extremely lean. I would say almost 95% of our staff across both the centers are engaged in teaching or tutoring. So a fair few of them are educators, professionals, and who've been teaching for a while and everything else. What we also do is that, keeping that in perspective, we get a lot of interns in from the universities in Hong Kong.
I see.
So we have internship relationships with the universities, and we select students who are studying in the universities to become teachers.
Okay.
From their perspective, it's an absolutely first in lifetime mind-blowing experience, because they've never had experience teaching a non-Chinese person or interacting with a non-Chinese person. So, and for us, it is good because they learn to adapt to a non-Chinese child, and because they're on the younger side, so they bring around a fresh perspective towards teaching. So our teaching team is basically a mishmash between the youngsters who will become teachers in the next 1 or 2 years and the experienced ones.
And what is the strength of both of your centers, and how exactly do you run your class? Is it after school?
Sure.
How does it run?
So numerically, the number of staff, total staff we have ranges between 18 to 22. And by that, I'm giving you a range because last year being the COVID year, we had to constantly chop and change because every time you could not get students in.
Right.
So you had to rotate the staff and everything else. Student-wise, we actually bucked the complete trend. So if you look at the last normal in Hong Kong, which was December 2019, after that, the social unrest and everything, the universities and the schools shut down. So there we were around 190 students across our 2 centers.
Okay.
You look at that, and then you look at the last, again, part 2 normal, which was in November 2020, we had gone up to 240.
Wow.
So
that's
instead,
a big number.
Yeah. So, and the reason why that happened is that we didn't drop students. Kids didn't get off the educational radar, and parents didn't say, oh, which was a common philosophy being floated around, saying that, they'll get out of the habit of studying and all that. We knew that.
Okay.
And the way to keep them engaged was to constantly keep badgering the parents and tell them that, look, you have to this is not a long summer holiday. Your child's life and educational journey has to continue, irrespective of what the environment is all about. Something or the other will always going to. That's just the way life is.
Right.
There's going to be new curveball coming in every year. So that's how we were able to, and the parents respected that, and that's why we were able to actually go from 190 to 240.
So it's incredible that even in the social unrest time and even in these pandemic times, you managed to run both your centers in such a robust way, continue to provide all the educational support that these kids needed.
Yeah.
I mean, no wonder IBL has been awarded the HR Appreciation Award. You truly deserve. How does IBL manage to keep itself afloat and manage its financial part?
Sure.
Because I understand these are kids who are from very underprivileged backgrounds.
Sure.
So do you get a lot of support from the government or from private organizations?
Sure.
And, how exactly do you pitch for this noble cause in Hong Kong?
See, our financial model has always, so first and foremost, I would like to make one thing very clear, that we are clearly, very, very clearly, by IRD regulations and everything, we are a Section 88 charity.
Okay.
So that is very clear. However, we have always been of the mindset that the concept of charity with dignity, you have to have a certain amount of wherewith and a certain amount of backbone, that even when the child is coming in here, they must come in here with the thing that this is not a freebies place.
Okay.
So what we are doing with the parent is that we will charge them for the 30 hours that they come in, we will charge them a nominal $30 an hour, 30 Hong Kong dollars an hour. And that for the entire month comes to $1,000 or $900, that kind of thing. So what it does for us is it allows us to maintain a certain amount of self-sufficiency, that we are able to pay the rental, electricity, water, and all that kind of thing. And then the conversations we are able to have with our donors is the nice conversations that, my student numbers have jumped from 200 to 210. I need to hire a new teacher. Would you be willing to pay for our teachers? So that's, and to answer your question, yes, we've always been, from the get-go, always been reliant on extremely compassionate, extremely kind, and extremely benevolent philanthropic organizations and individuals. And our board has also always been very enthusiastically involved in that drive. So government-wise, we are not a government subvented organization at all. Yes, in the last year, because we followed every rule of the law as laid down by the government, which is we are IRD regulated, both our centers are registered with the Education Bureau. So that helped us get certain subsidies and that helped us get certain amount of financial relief. But then that is not to say that before that we have never gotten any government funding, but that was, the government is at a situation where they are able to help organizations. So we benefited to that extent. And of course, I think, Jaya, the most important thing that came about and the sentiment that we got throughout the year was that the donors initially started, and throughout the year they just kept track, how's things, and they said, and then they realized that, we have been keeping our centers running. And then that is where they connected and said, no, we understand you guys are actually truly working hard. And I don't mind helping you out to another X amount of money. So yes, to a large extent, it has been just, blood and sweat. And that has, to a certain extent, reaped the rewards for us.
Well, I mean, it's an incredible work what IBL is doing. It's, of course, not just giving back to Hong Kong society personally for you, but I think it's also strengthening the base of the society, which is very much needed. A root cause of a lot of protests has been a lot of inequality, and the organization is definitely working to whatever little bit it can to remove that. I mean, you're so involved in the girls' rugby, and your kids grew up here. So how has Hong Kong overall been for your personal journey?
Oh, I think family-wise, there are a couple of aspects. So the amount of things you can get done in a place like Hong Kong is just mind-blowing. I still cannot get my head around it. So when both my kids were in school and there were Saturdays full days and Sundays full day, I'll be running from one football pitch to another tennis match to another rugby pitch, because both my kids were involved massively in sports. And you got everything done in 2 days. And just within the same environment,
so
because
efficient.
and because logistics are so nice, it's a safe place.
Everything is close
and
by.
so many things are happening. So to that extent it was fantastic. So that journey, and one felt happy that your children are being provided and they're getting a good exposure to multicultural, multidimensional sports and friends and people and everything else. The girls rugby side came again by experience, and funnily enough, the underlying root cause of that was also what is the root cause of IBEL, inclusiveness and equal opportunities. So when my daughter was growing up, and so of course when my son was growing up, so lots of boys playing rugby and all is no big deal. But when she was growing up, so there would be like 2-3 girls in a rugby team and all were boys. And then it became a point where you felt that, hang on, why can't we build a girls rugby team?
I see.
And so that kind of started it. And of course, I have to be very honest in saying that a large part of this was because of a personal experience of my daughter. And so we were at the HKU Sandy Bay, and that's where both my kids have grown up playing rugby. And so that kind of motivated me to get involved there. And again, it's again the same thing comes, and that's where the similarities are there. You can either find the solution, or you can sit on the sidelines and just opine and comment, this is not right, that's not right. The good part is that when you want to roll up your sleeves and you want to get things done, they get done. So the opportunity is there, and if you want to do it, it can be done. And that is what my experience has been. Soon enough, we had a girls rugby team, and then even to date, so I was involved there for almost 12 years. Even to date, all the clubs have very strong girls rugby teams in the minis and the youth and every age grade. There are games and tournaments and championships and this and that happening. So from being a situation where there was a certain amount of shyness or a certain amount of hesitancy of girls playing rugby and all that, it is now, I will not say it's reached a stage of absolute nirvana, but yes, it's reached a stage where it is more normal and more acceptable, and girls play rugby and parents support them and families support them.
Fantastic.
So the concept was the same, inclusiveness and equal opportunities.
Wow, what great initiatives.
Thanks.
That's just so lovely to hear all the different things that Manoj you do.
Thank
you
you.
truly are a social innovator. I'm sure Hong Kong and its people are going to benefit a lot more from your energy.
Thank you.
So are you ready for a rapid fire question round now?
I will try and survive that.
That's getting to know Manoj's Hong Kong story in a bit more fun way. So your fun thing to do with friends and family in Hong Kong?
That would be hiking, going to movies, and sometimes just going out for a BBQ and sitting down having lunch, that kind of thing.
Any hobby you pursue besides IBL, of course, and rugby?
I play a decent amount of tennis.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, other than that, nothing really.
Okay. Your favorite cultural activity in Hong Kong?
Okay. Till the time I was in banking, so we were with the bank team, we were heavily involved in the dragon boat racing. So that was a huge cultural experience every single year.
Wow.
Not just that you had to train hard for the dragon boat
course,
racing, but
yes.
just the entire concept of what the dragon boat is all about. And post that, since the time we've set this up, so Chinese New Year in our centers,
Yeah.
preparing for it and getting the kids involved is much, much, much bigger for us than, Christmas or anything else.
Okay.
Sure.
So life in Hong Kong as an ethnic minority is fun because
it allows you to intermingle and learn a lot from another big, massive, traditional culture like the Chinese culture.
Okay.
And especially coming out of India, where we have a lot of pride and a lot of history to our culture.
Okay.
It's nice to be able to learn from another culture which has got equal amount of history
Okay.
and richness and tradition to it.
Okay.
And so that's one thing. And of course, yes, the concept of being able to interact with, in a small place, in a small port, being able to interact with multiple different nationalities.
Okay.
So those are the two key aspects.
What are you most proud of as a Hong Konger?
As a Hong Konger, I think the resoluteness and the ability of the city to have undergone and come out by and large pretty much intact.
Okay.
Over what it has undergone over the last 2 years. I don't think very many societies or very many economies would have been able to stand the pressure and stand the various issues, economic, social, etc. So I personally feel extremely grateful and extremely thankful that one is in a place where it has this kind of stability to it, this kind of resources and this kind of infrastructure. Logistically, this place is fantastic. Safety-wise, whether it's people, families, kids, etc., it's absolutely on top. Efficiency-wise, it's great. Things by and large get done. And the biocultural diversity. So on one hand, you have the concrete jungle.
Yes.
And on the other hand, if you wanted an hour, just literally an hour or 45 minutes away, you could be in absolute peace and quiet. Whichever way you look at it, you look at the economics, you look at the by and large, the social fabric, you look at the topography, you look at the corporate culture. Everything is very, very convenient. Convenience and efficiency.
Well, thank you so much, Manoj, for
Thank
coming to our show.
Thank you so much.
We wish you all the very best in all your future endeavors.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks so much.
Stay tuned for our next episode on Dreams, Passion and Your Hong Kong Story, where we bring you yet another fascinating story from this amazing land, Hong Kong.